Welcome to the Simple Kicking Show. Today is Thursday, April 8th. And before we get into the show with Thomas Fletcher, let's hear about Big Game USA. Big Game manufactures footballs for many high school and top college programs. And the cool thing is, they're made right here in Dallas, Texas. I've been kicking this football for a really long time, and it's been consistent for me every time. And I know what's going to happen with this football. When I'm over the spot, all I'm focusing on is the swing to produce it and the target I'm aiming at. To receive 10% off your order, please go to BigGameUSA.com, scroll to the bottom of the page, and click Kicker Footballs. Again, that's Simple Kick 2021 for 10% off your kicking football order.
How you get through life and how kind of what I've learned as I've matured in college and matured in the sport is the way that you are successful in life is how you handle that difficulty. It's not how you handle the good stuff. Like, a lot of people can handle the good stuff, but what you deal with that challenges you, those are the people that are successful in life, the people who are capable of dealing with stuff like that. And so, you have to be a defensive pessimist in this game, and you have to prepare for, worst case scenario and everything. But, if it takes time, it takes time. But if it takes 2 years to get in and I play for another 15, those 2 years are more than worth it,
A two-time national champion stops by the show to share what it takes to get to the next level. If you're a high schooler or college player, this episode is for you. Lee, hit the theme.
Welcome to Simple Kicking with your host, James Harrison.
Thomas Fletcher was the long snapper at the University of Alabama. I will not say the two words that succeed that university's name, but I'll say welcome to the Simple Kicking Show.
Thank you for having me, man. I'm glad to be on here.
So I had one of your homies, your former teammate, Will Reichard, on the show, and Will told me a little story when number 2 Alabama was playing number 1 Georgia at home. There's about a little less than a minute left in the first half. What ended up happening? Tell your side of the story.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure they scored against us. I don't remember that part super clearly, but we got the ball back, or we stopped them, and we had it, and we were on our half of the 50. I mean, we were pretty well backed up, but our offense was as good as any offense has ever been. And so I went over to Will and told him, just, based off of the situation and having been in it before, that, we're probably going to drive down and try and kick a field goal here. So, if you want to go hit balls in the net, or you want to get a snap timing down on the sideline, we should do that. But we're going to stand down, at the kick line, probably the 35 or the 36, and just wait on it. And as they drive down, if we get the opportunity, we're going to try and take a field goal here. And so it ended up happening. Offense got us down to, I believe, the 34. I think they're at the 34. Maybe a little deeper. I don't know. It was a long kick. But we went out to kick the field goal, and Coach Smart iced us, and this was a big game from a specialist perspective because we were very tight with the special teams coordinator at Georgia on a personal level for sure. And so, we wanted to perform well, and obviously, you try and put your team in a position to win the game. And so we went out to kick it. We got iced. We came over to the sideline, and, I went over to Will and kind of gave him, I don't think he remembers this because he was, doing the kicker thing. Once you get in that position, I mean, you're, smoke and mirrors, you don't see anything else. And it was basically, in less explicit words, let's make this kick. And, we went out, and Will did what Will does, and he drilled it, man, 52-yarder, and it flipped the momentum of the game. That's the thing that, from his perspective, I think he saw that he made the kick, and he was happy he made the kick, and he was excited and everything, and the teammates were excited for him. But from a momentum perspective, which is, a huge thing that special teams can control, which is, flipping the energy of the stadium in a lot of ways, especially at the end of a half, at the end of a quarter, when you need a big kick, when you get iced and stuff like that. And so, I mean, we were about to go in the locker room and just tear each other apart for how we had played in the first half. But, the Will Reichard kick kind of flipped everything. And it was like, hey, this is us. Let's go win this game. So that was huge for Will. And, I couldn't be more proud of him and who he's become and, who he was in that game for sure. Fantastic kid, fantastic human being.
It's funny that you say that kick flipped the script of the game. It flipped the energy of the game. I've played in a exact same situation at Bryant-Denny Stadium where number 1 LSU was playing number 2 Alabama. Night game, prime time. The smallest pieces of the game shift, the entire stadium, 100,000 people.
When we played Clemson in the Sugar Bowl it was my freshman year, so 2017, the year that we beat Georgia in the national championship, the opening kickoff, JK put the ball on the numbers on the goal line, and they started trying to bring it out, and Trayvon Diggs ran around, bent the corner, trim the fat is the term, but trim the fat, came across and lit up whoever the returner was. And I can tell you the game was over right then, like immediately, off rip, just from our sideline and their reaction and our fans and everything that was going on. You can feel it. I mean, it's definitely an energy-based thing. You can feel when a stadium is behind you, and you can feel when your team is behind that energy and your team is a part of that energy. And I very vividly remember, especially because I was at such a young age and I hadn't experienced anything quite like that before, on a stage like that before. But after that opening kickoff, ball game. When we played Notre Dame this year, same thing. Kickoff, Will hit a wonderful ball, started coming out, and then I believe it was Josh Jobe just split the defenders, knocked the dude out, game over, done. Like, it's our game, we're here to play, that type of thing. So it is, especially from a special teams perspective, the effect that you can have on a game. You probably don't realize it when it's happening, but when you look back, you can feel when that momentum flips, and that it flipped because of, what your unit did.
You understand the momentum. You've played in big games. Will described you as a mentor, like you were the captain of special teams at the University of Alabama.
Yeah, and I've told this story before. I wanted to be a leader, not only in the specialist group, but on the team itself, because in 2018, when we lost to Clemson in the national championship in California, it was the most embarrassing game that I've been a part of as an amateur athlete, like not even close. And I was standing on the sideline and watching everything happen and was kind of realizing, this feeling of hopelessness in a lot of ways, and the fact that I knew I couldn't go on the field and do anything miraculous to flip the momentum of the game. Like, I can't go score a touchdown. I can't go cause a turnover. Like, it's just not the reality of the position, because at the end of the day, your job is very simple. It is to do your job. And, I kind of realized in the days reflecting after that game that the best bet that I had to put everybody else in a good position and put us in a better position to win games down the road was to have a positive effect on the people who could do miraculous things. And so I kind of went to Coach Saban and got his blessing to do that. And one of his words of wisdom, or one of his many words of wisdom, was, in order to lead the team, you first have to be able to lead yourself. And after you lead yourself, you first have to be able to lead. You next have to be able to lead the specialist unit. You have to lead your core group of guys. And that, combined with the fact that, I had been a freshman before, I had been a young guy before, I had gone through the same things that Will was going through. And it gave me the perspective to know what I would have wanted to hear from an older guy. What advice would have helped me? What would have put me in a better position if somebody would have come over, put their arm around me and told me, which way to go on one thing. When I was here, this is what I did, and it didn't work. Here's what you should do, that type of thing. And, Will is as much a brother to me as he is a teammate. Like, I love that kid to death and could not be more proud of who he is, both as a person and as a kicker. I mean, cannot say enough about Will.
Yeah, man, you're talking about having like brotherly advice, and I'm not trying to make this about Will, but I want people to understand Will was coming off a pretty tough hip injury. This is not just some new kid off the block who's highly recruited coming in with a big chip on his shoulder. No, this is actually quite the opposite, where someone may not, he didn't even have confidence in his health at that point. So he was probably at a low point in his life, and he still called you a mentor.
Yeah, he he went through a lot, man. I mean, you talk about a high and a low. I mean, he came out of high school as one of the best high school kickers that anybody had ever seen, from a coaching perspective or from, a specialist guru perspective. And, he got knocked off the pedestal a little bit. He certainly did. And it happens to all of us in one way or another, but Will's was significant, to say the least. And when you have the confidence in your guy to figure it out, which everybody did and will just because of who he is, it's easy to go to a guy like that who is at their lowest point and be like, you're good. Like, brother, I've been around a lot of people who do what you do, and you are better than those people that do what they do. So you're gonna be fine. Just trust it. Like, it's a pretty gruesome injury. It's not gonna heal itself overnight. But the best thing that you can do for yourself is to be in the position for when it is healed, it looks like you were never hurt. And that's exactly what he did. I mean, he came back the next year and did not miss a single kick. Didn't skip a beat, because that's who he is. And I knew that's who he was, and the coaching staff knew that's who he was. We just needed to get him to believe that in himself, and it turned out that he did. And he had, the best year of any specialist that I've personally played with, especially in comparison to what he went through the year before.
So this is Thomas Fletcher. He was the long snapper at the University of Alabama for the past couple of years, won a handful of national championships. One hand on his body sags lower than the other because it's full of, jewelry of between SEC championships and national championship hardware. It's Masters Week. And earlier in pre-show, you said a key word, which was caddy. How are you a caddy for kickers and punters in your career? And how do you think that's going to help you at the next level?
I think the snapper and the holder have to be, it's a caddy type relationship with the kicker, because as a kicker, I mean, you're going through a lot. I mean, it, like when you're going to have to kick a field goal, like as much as you want to simplify it, it's a lot going on. I mean, we talked about the energy in the stadium. Like, you feel that just as much as anybody. As much as anybody wants to say that, like, you go into a different zone or whatever. I mean, you're still doing one of the hardest jobs in all of sports in front of a lot of people, playing against a lot of really, really good players and stuff. And so it is amazing the effect that nobody's saying anything to you versus your snapper coming over to you and being like, hey, if we're inside the 15, we're probably going to go tackle over here. Just, punch it through, man. No win. Like, you're good. You got it. Let's go. We do this all the time. It's exactly what you say to your guy in practice. And when he hears it in practice and drills kicks and then hears it in the game, the next thing he does is drill the kick. And it helps guys in numerous ways. Like, because I know that because J.K. Scott came to me before my first punt at Alabama when we were playing Florida State, number 1 versus number 3. It was the first game in the new stadium in Atlanta. And, like, I was like, jazzed and excited and whatever. And he comes over and he's like, hey, just throw it on my hip and hit somebody. I was like, word, and went out and did it. You guys have to be there for each other, and you have to want to see each other be successful. And when you want to see each other be successful, you start to find out, what makes guys tick, what makes, like, for Will, I can go to Will and be like, nobody in the stadium thinks you can make this kick, and he'll hit it from 65 yards. Like, it's just something that for him is like, really? Oh, okay. And he'll go out and, hit a 35-yard field goal 5 feet above the uprights.
So let's take a step back. How do you even get to Alabama? Do you get a scholarship coming out of high school? And does Alabama give scholarships to long snappers?
I think the past 4 long snappers have all been on scholarship, but Cole Mazza and I, the past 2, like Carson Tinker set the groundwork by all means in, helping the organization realize the significance of having a good snapper and having a snapper for a long period of time, especially Carson, and the fact that, he was a leader and he was, the human being that he was and is and continues to be. And so Cole Mazza got offered a scholarship out of high school to come to Alabama. And then, how it works with specialists, just every 4 years they look for the next guy. And, I was blessed enough to be in a good position and, get offered a scholarship going into my senior year of high school. I believe it was June of 2016, maybe. I think it was June of 2016. But yeah, got offered a scholarship out of high school, and pretty easy decision, and came here and was, obviously enjoyed a lot of team success over the past 4 years.
You've learned a lot in the last 4 years. What would you tell a kid?
Yeah, long snapping, you're going to snap a lot of footballs. Like, you're going to snap more footballs than you've ever snapped in your entire life. And it is vital to understand the fact that to a coach, practice, and it should be to you, is what I'm saying. I didn't understand this when I got to school, but practice is just as, if not more important than the game. So don't think that you're going to be able to go into practice and be like, oh, I'm working on this, I'm working on that. Oh, I'm trying to figure this out and do this different. That's not how it works, because when a coach is watching you do what you do, he's trying to picture it in his head. If I put this guy in a game today and we had to play a game today, does he put us in the best possible position to win that game? Or is it another guy that does that? And so just understand the importance of you are being evaluated all the time. The way that you stand on the sideline is being evaluated. The way that you go through flex before practice is being evaluated. They want to find out everything that they can find out about you before they trust you enough to put you in a game that means as much to them as anybody, And so I think that that's the biggest thing, is like, treat everything the way that you treat a game. Treat your workouts the way that you treat a game. When you're snapping with your holder and your punter and your kicker in the off season, just in shorts and a t-shirt, treat it like a game, because before you know it, it is going to be a game. And if you want to be the guy who's doing it at the highest level that it's done, which is on the field in the SEC on Saturdays, treat everything like a game.
Okay, final question. At Alabama, we talk about national championships. We talk about the process. We see Coach Saban getting everybody fired up, or that's the brand that fits the Alabama program. Is there any fun that you guys have as specialists, or is there any games that you guys play?
Well, first of all, winning is fun. And we did a lot of that. We would play punt golf, which I involved myself in, because it was, anybody who hasn't done it, that's about as fun as it gets at a Division I football practice. But, we would stand on one end of the field and be like, hey, that light pole, par 5, like looking into the wind, like talking to each other and stuff. And so, punt the ball, and whoever gets it down there, and it was always, the biggest thing was, like, if you were going to putt, quote unquote, could you pick it up and roll it, or did you have to kick it off the ground, or did you have to actually drop kick it? And like, that rule changed every day depending on, who wanted to do what, and we would argue about it and whatever. But no, punt golf, there was a lot of bloodshed in punt golf.
Punt golf is a fun game that Joe Sterniolo, he's the kicking coach at Westminster High School in Atlanta, and that's where there's some origins in punt golf. And we see guys on Instagram like Jake Bailey playing punt golf, and Presley Harvin, who's joined the Simple Kicking Show, talk a little bit about punt golf. So that's a lot of fun to hear that you've played the game. Okay, last question that I want to have, and I know I already said last question, but I'm going to pull up this clip from your Twitter. So stand by 1 second.
Love you, brother. Being away from our families, everything we gave up was for this. It's for this moment right here. We get to live the rest of our lives as national champions, forever. Thank you. Roll Tide. I love all of you. So that was, obviously, that's on the field after the national championship in Miami this past year. And I was just kind of like, when you win a game like that, you're a little bit in a daze. And we're all walking around crying, hugging each other, telling each other how much we love each. Like, the feeling of accomplishment when you win a game like that far surpasses anything else that a lot of us will ever experience in our lives. I mean, it's especially everything we went through, like I spoke about in the video, of not being around our families, not being around our friends, having to quarantine for the better part of, 7 or 8 months. And then you realize the feeling of accomplishment and the fact that, I mean, we did it, man. I mean, everything that we set out to do, like we accomplished. We didn't lose a football game. Like it's really, really hard to do that, to go through a whole year and you don't lose to anybody that you play. And we played, 11 SEC teams and University of Notre Dame and, Ohio State University, and we beat all of them. And we accomplished that goal that we had set for ourselves. And so I was just kind of walking around, and you can see me in that video hugging Butch Jones, like telling Jaleel that I love him and everything. And like as I was walking off, one of our video guys said, "Hey, Fletch," and turned around and he had the camera sitting there. And I had to kind of take a second and gather myself and just like, sounds cliche, but kind of speak from the heart a little bit, because the amount of people that are involved in accomplishing what we accomplished is incredible. Like what goes into accomplishing what we accomplished is absolutely incredible. And so that was, very quickly after we had won that game, that was my first and most immediate opportunity just to give thanks and, show my appreciation for the people who had gotten us there and had put us in that situation. That's by far, it is today, and it will forever be one of the happiest moments of my life, one of the most accomplishing moments of my life, for sure.
What an incredible story, dude. You're a champion. You have a champion mindset. You're wise beyond your years. I mean, what stood out to me is the ability to handle a kicker when handling a kicker normally can take, a doctorate in psychology or, being an MD.
Like, on the record, like, let me say that has way more to do with Will and who Will is than it has to do with me. I mean, it's because there are guys where it takes a doctorate to try and get them, back to reality. Will is as much, if not more, responsible for that, because in order for him, for like any of that to work, he has to be accepting and he has to be capable of it. So that was, I'm glad that I could be there for Will and I could help Will in the ways that I could help him, but that he is, I mean, he's the man, dude. Like that has way more to do with Will than it does with me. But I appreciate what you said.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. And look, now that you have experience playing at the highest level, you're on the way, to the NFL. You've got what it takes. And there's success story out of success story, with those being, Reed Ferguson, one of my dear friends who was a long snapper at LSU, and his brother Blake Ferguson, who just finished his rookie year at the Miami Dolphins. You've seen the blueprint for success with Carson Tinker. You've seen how Cole Mazza works, and now it's your turn. And so in the next couple weeks, you'll have an opportunity, whether that's being drafted, undrafted, getting a call, whatever, to go on to the next level and to show that you can take the skills that you've accumulated on Saturdays in the SEC and national championships, be able to bring it on Sundays.
Yeah, I've been very, very blessed in the fact that, I've seen it from a specialist perspective because of the specialists that I've been around here, but also, I mean, I played at the University of Alabama. I played with a lot of guys who are playing in the National Football League, and I'm, played with a lot of guys this past season who will end up playing in the National Football League. I mean, some of my, best friends in the world are going to end up playing football for a very, very long time. And, like my roommate my freshman year was Minka Fitzpatrick. So I was exposed to at a very, very young age to what it meant to be a pro, like what it meant to carry yourself like a pro, because it's not just a football thing. Like how you do one thing is how you do everything. And so I got to watch guys like Minka, Sean Dion Hamilton, like guys who I consider mentors for me, that approached everything, as I said earlier, approach everything like a game, and I was able to kind of replicate that. And, as I said, as I just said, like, I could not be more blessed to have been in the presence of those guys and to learn it from them. And so, like, I always, was able to see how they did things and kind of decide that's how I was going to do them, and try and put myself in the best position to have that opportunity. Because, my aspiration ever since I started getting into long snapping was I wanted to play it at the highest level that football is played. And that's, this is just kind of the next step in that process.
If you enjoyed the content, man, drop a like, comment, or even subscribe. It would be really cool to hear from you. Also, you can find Simple Kicking on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and even TikTok.